A single sentence in their mother's will shattered their family. A brother and sister, once inseparable, now locked in a bitter feud over the family home. How does a mother's final wish become a family's worst nightmare? We're going to explore their story and, more importantly, how you can make sure your legacy brings your family together, not tears them apart. So meet Sarah and David. Growing up, they were everything to each other. They built forts in the backyard of their family home, learned to ride their bikes together, and were each other's rock through every scraped knee and teenage heartbreak. That house wasn't just a building, it was the backdrop of their entire lives, a vault of shared memories. When their mother passed away, they were understandably devastated. They leaned on each other, just like always, finding comfort in their shared grief. They sat in the same living room where they'd opened Christmas presents for 30 years, ready to read their mother's will, expecting it to be one last loving message. But then they read the sentence that changed everything. The will stated, "To my beloved son David, I leave my entire interest in the family home. To my beloved daughter Sarah, I leave the remainder of my liquid assets." Silence. The air got thick with confusion, then a sharp, stinging sense of betrayal. After all the medical bills and expenses, the liquid assets were just a fraction of the home's value. The house, the symbol of their entire family history, was now just David's. There was no explanation, no letter, nothing to soften the blow. Sarah was heartbroken, understandably. This wasn't just about money. It felt like a final tally from the grave of who was loved more. David, on the other hand, felt he deserved it. He'd lived closer and was the one helping their mom with errands in her final years. Didn't that count for something? Their first conversation was a complete disaster. Sarah's hurt came out as an accusation. David's defensiveness sounded like arrogance. Within weeks, they had lawyers. The fight dredged up every old grievance from childhood. "Mom always thought you were more responsible," Sarah would say. "Well, Mom knew I was the one who was actually there for her," David would shoot back. The inheritance, meant to be a gift, became a weapon. Their grief was completely overshadowed by anger and legal strategy. They weren't brother and sister mourning a parent anymore. They were enemies in a legal battle that was draining their mother's estate and destroying their relationship. They were spending their inheritance to fight over their inheritance. This family story is tragic, but it's not unique. In fact, we are seeing a significant rise in inheritance disputes, and it's a major cause of conflict among adult siblings. I know nobody likes to think their family might fight over their stuff when they're gone, but it happens way more than you'd think. My name is Mike Smith, and as an estate planning attorney for over 2 decades, almost 3 now, I've been 29 years, I've seen stories just like Sarah and David's play out time and again. And the root of these fights is rarely just greed. It's about emotion, history, and the powerful meaning we all attach to money and property. So let's break down the mistakes that led to this feud, the exact mistakes that you can avoid. First, and this is a big one, was the total lack of communication. Their mother made a life-altering decision without ever explaining why. When a will is full of surprises, it breeds suspicion and hurt feelings. An unequal split, especially one that isn't explained, can feel like a final scorecard of a parent's affection. It forces your kids to fill in the blanks, and they usually fill them with their deepest insecurities. Sarah didn't just feel like she lost a house, she felt like she lost her mother's equal love. Second, the will treated all the assets the same, but they're not. A family home is not just a financial asset, it's an emotional one. It holds sentimental values that you can't put a price tag on. By giving the most emotionally loaded asset to one child and only cash to the other, their mother accidentally created a hierarchy. David got the legacy, Sarah got the leftovers. This is a classic trigger for a fight, even if the dollar amounts were closer. And third, their mother used a simple will for a complicated family situation. A will is a public document that just says who gets what. It's a blunt instrument. In a situation like this, with emotionally charged assets and the potential for a fight, a will alone is like using a sledgehammer for surgery. It gets the job done, but it can leave a lot of damage behind. The good news, all of this is preventable. With some thoughtful planning, you can leave behind a legacy of peace, not a legacy of legal bills. Here are the 5 things Sarah and David's mother could have done differently and 5 steps you can take to protect your family. Step 1, talk about it while you're alive. This is the single most important thing you can do. Most inheritance fights come from surprises. If you'd plan to divide things unequally or in a way that could be seen as unequal, you have to talk about it. Explain your plan and why you're doing it. If a big family meeting feels a little too intense, then write a personal letter to be read with your will. In it, you can explain your decisions in your own voice. You could say, for example, I'm leaving the house to David because he'll live in it with his family. But Sarah, I've made sure you receive an equal value for my other assets because I love you both the same. A few sentences of explanation can be the difference between peace and war. Step number 2. Equalize, equalize, equalize. If you give a big indivisible asset like a house or a business to one kid, do your absolute best to make sure the other kids get assets of equal value. This might mean taking out a life insurance policy just to provide a cash payout for the other child. If you don't have enough other assets to make things equal, the plan needs a solution for that, which brings me to number 3. Step number 3, use a revocable living trust. Instead of a will, think about using a trust. A trust is a private document that can do so much more than a will. For Sarah and David, a trust could have set clear rules. For instance, the trust could have given David the right to buy the house from the estate at fair market value, with the money then being split equally with Sarah. Or it could have said David could live in the house for a few years, but then it had to be sold with the profits divided. A trust gives you control and lets you build in fairness, which is key to stopping fights before they start. Step 4, consider a no contest clause. A no contest clause, which lawyers call an in terrorem clause, can be a powerful deterrent. It basically says that if someone challenges the will or the trust and loses, they get nothing at all. And this makes a person think twice before starting a lawsuit just because their feelings are hurt. It's not a perfect shield, but it definitely raises the stakes for anyone who's thinking about fighting your wishes. Step 5, appoint a neutral third party. Naming one of your kids as the executor, the person in charge of your estate, or your trustee, can put them in a really tough spot and breed suspicion with their siblings. They have to be both a grieving child and a financial administrator. Instead, consider appointing a neutral party like a corporate trustee or a trusted professional. They don't have an emotional stake in the family drama and are legally required to follow your instructions without bias. This removes a huge source of conflict right off the bat. Have you ever seen a family fight over inheritance? What happened? Share your story in the comments because these conversations really do help us all learn. So, what happened to Sarah and David? Well, after 2 years and tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees, they settled. A judge ordered the house to be sold, and the proceeds, now much smaller, were split. David never got to live in the home, and Sarah's financial win felt empty. They got some money, but they lost the house, and they lost each other. Their relationship is now just scar tissue and resentment, a casualty of a poorly planned estate. The strategies we talked about, communication, equalization, using trusts, no contest clauses, and appointing neutral executors are the tools you need to prevent this tragedy in your own family. Planning your estate isn't really about planning for your death. It's about planning for your family's future, their peace, and their ability to stay a family. It's one of the greatest acts of love you can do. At the end of the day, an inheritance is temporary, but family is supposed to be for a lifetime. If you're ready to create a plan that protects your assets and, more importantly, your family, click the link in the description to get our free estate planning guide or to schedule a consultation. Don't leave your family's future up to chance.